Hi, I'm a Possum and I find garbage, and I recently watched Luca, the new animated movie from Pixar on Disney+. Now, I started watching this movie without knowing anything about it. I didn't even see any trailers. The only reason I even knew about it is because they had ads for it on Disney+. I think I might have seen a poster advertising Happy Meal toys at McDonald's or something, so I had no expectations going in. Now, without spoiling anything, the plot centers around an anthropomorphic fish kid named Luca, who becomes human as long as he's not touching water. He and another fish kid go to an Italian city, where they have to blend in so they can compete in a race. While it has a sort of interesting concept, the story is formulaic and kind of predictable. If you've ever seen a movie before, you know there's going to be the bully character, the overprotective parents who disapprove and try to stop the protagonist, and the fish out of water antics, in this case literally. The movie takes place in Italy, and all the characters have Italian names, and I was wondering if this was based on like an Italian children's book or a fairy tale that I wasn't aware of, because the fact that it's Italy really doesn't have anything at all to do with the story, and it seems kind of entirely incidental. It could have just as easily taken place in like New York or Barcelona or any other coastal city without making any difference to the plot or themes. But then one of my followers on Twitter pointed out that the writer and director is Italian, and he apparently based this on his experiences growing up, so I guess that explains it. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with the story. I was just wondering why an American movie would be set in Italy if it doesn't add anything. But it is kind of weird to me because all of the characters speak English, and this isn't a translation convention because there are times when characters will say things in Italian and other characters won't understand them. So we know the characters really are supposed to be speaking English. And this just gets me thinking about the fact that a fish person who's never met a human before shouldn't even be able to speak English or really any human language. I mean, that's just one of those things you kind of have to go along with for the movie to work, but I just thought it was kind of weird, and thinking about it kind of took me out of the movie a little. I was also wondering if the plot element of the fish people having to hide the fact that they're fish people was supposed to be an allegory for homosexuality or something, in the same way as something like X-Men. The movie came out during Pride Month, so that wouldn't surprise me, but I'm not aware of Disney promoting it as a gay pride movie or anything like that. But it turns out the writer and / director based this movie off himself and his childhood friends, so I guess not. But apparently there's all of these articles and people on Twitter acting like this is definitely a movie about gay relationships and coming out. But I have to say, aside from that one very specific plot element which may be interpreted as an allegory, it doesn't come across in the movie at all, unless you just want to interpret literally any instance of two male characters being friends as a gay relationship. Honestly, I think that's just people seeing what they want to see, because you could just as easily interpret Luca's friendship with the girl character as romantic, because there's an equal amount of evidence or lack thereof either way. So if your interest in this movie is based on the notion that some sort of gay pride thing, and you're going to be seeing LGBT people represented in these characters, well, I'm sorry, but that's not what you're going to get. I mean, this is Disney we're talking about. Even if the characters are gay, they're not going to show it or say so in the movie, because they have censors and overseas market to appease. Anyway, the art style is kind of like The Good Dinosaur, where the characters have big heads and big mouths with rounded teeth. But unlike that movie, Luca doesn't have that weird clash of styles where the characters are like all cartoony with noodle limbs, while the environments are all photorealistic. Everything looks like it goes together, but one thing I did notice is that the characters' mouths are pretty much never centered on their faces, but always seem to be slightly offset towards whichever side of their face is more towards the camera. Now, this is obviously intentional, but I don't understand the purpose of it. Maybe making their mouths more visible helps to create a better sense of liveliness while they're talking, kind of like how most cartoon characters are slightly cross-eyed, so it always looks like they're looking at something, and they don't have a 1,000-yard stare. I like the designs of the fish people, but some of the human characters kind of remind me of those Grubhub commercials. And I have to wonder why Luca himself has more or less human facial proportions, even as a fish person, while all the other fish people have more elongated fish-like faces. And for that matter, why do the fish people have eyelids? Overall, I didn't really have a strong reaction to the movie, but I did like it. I just wish the story didn't follow such predictable beats. While I didn't find any of it to be particularly funny, it at least didn't have any of that stupid humor that Raya and the Last Dragon had. I like most of the characters except for the bully, but of course you're supposed to hate him. But the whole time it just made me want to see Luca go full shape of water and bite his fingers off. So before I get into spoilers, I guess I would give this movie a 7 out of 10. It won't change your life, but it also won't piss you off. But it's only 90 minutes long, and 10 of those minutes are credits, and it's free on Disney+, so there's no reason not to watch it, and if you have kids, I'm sure they'll enjoy it. Now, I can't really talk about the themes without just explaining what happens in the movie, so I'm just going to go ahead and explain the plot, so consider that your spoiler warning. The movie starts with these two guys in a fishing boat talking about sea monsters, and the exposition's a little clunky. We see Luca reach into the boat to steal things, and he gets all tangled up in the net but escapes, but this causes stuff in the boat to fall into the water. While he's hurting these fish, because he's like Luca, he's a fish boy who lives underwater on like an underwater farm of some kind, and I guess he's like a fish shepherd, so he's like herding a school of fish. So while he's herding the fish, Luca starts finding stuff that fell from the boat, and then he sees another boat and hides from it. Luca asks his parents where the boats come from, and they give him a lecture about how dangerous the land monsters are, and that curiosity will only get them into trouble. But of course, there's the grandma character who, against his parents' wishes, tries to encourage him to learn more. So the movie does this whole disapproving parents try to shelter the protagonist kid from the world, but all this does is make a more curious thing. The next day, Luca finds a trail of objects that fell from the boat and follows it, and ends up meeting another fish kid named Alberto, who's collecting the human stuff. Alberto climbs up out of the water onto dry land, and Luca wants to follow him because he has his shepherd stick thing, but he's afraid to leave the water, so Alberto just pulls him out of the water, causing him to take human form. And this is when it's revealed that when the fish people are out of water and they dry off, they become human. And then they turn back into fish people when they get wet. So Luca panics and flops back into the water, but later that night he starts to wonder about the surface world, so the next day he builds a dummy of himself out of rocks and to make the fish stay with the herd. And then he meets up with Alberto again. And we get this literal fish out of water moment where Alberto has to teach Luca to walk on land. So Alberto takes Luca to the abandoned tower, I guess it's like an old lighthouse or something, where him and his dad live with all the human stuff he's collected, but we don't see his dad. Now Alberto says his dad is almost never home, so you could probably guess that this is a lie and there's going to be some kind of twist later. So while Alberto is showing Luca around his hideout, they see this poster, it's like an advertisement for a Vespa scooter, and Alberto says it's the greatest thing ever invented by humans because you can just sit on it and it will take you anywhere you want to go. Also, this whole time, Alberto is kind of falsely presenting himself as like an expert on humans. Anyway, Luca and Alberto then spend the next 2 hours making their own Vespa out of found parts. Then Luca goes home. His mother asks him where he's been all day, but then his grandma covers for him, saying she sent him to find sea cucumbers. So then Luca goes back to Alberto the next day, and Alberto attempts to ride their improvised, scooter thing down the hill, but it falls apart. Then they decide to try to build another one. After attempting to ride their second homemade scooter and getting the same result, Alberto tells Luca he's been to the moon, which is obviously a lie, but Luca believes him. Alberto also tells him his dad told him about the human city across the water. Now, several times throughout the movie, Luca has these sort of Hey Arnold style daydream sequences, but this time it turns out he actually fell asleep, so he ends up rushing home. Luca returns home, and it turns out his parents found out that he's been sneaking off to the surface, and they tell him they're sending him to live with his weird uncle at the bottom of the ocean, where there's no sunlight. Now naturally, this just makes Luca want to run away from home. So Luca goes back to Alberto and tells him what happened. So Alberto tells him that they should go to the human city across the water so his parents won't find him. So they swim over there because they're like on an island, so they swim across the water to the human city. And Alberto warns Luca not to get wet because that'll cause them to turn back into fish people, and they can't let the humans know that fish people actually exist because, as Luca's mother explained, the humans would come looking for them and kill them. So Alberto, still pretending to be an expert on humans, tells Luca to greet them by saying, "What's the matter with you, stupido?" And this results in them almost immediately getting smacked by two old ladies. Luca and Alberto then have a run-in with the local bully, Ercole, who tries to dunk Luca's head into the fountain, but then a girl named Julia stops them. Ercole and Julia are rivals who compete in a local race every year, and Ercole always wins. Now, Julia tells Luca and Alberto about the prize money, and realizing they can use the prize money to buy a real Vespa, they agree to join her team. Now, the race is divided into 3 parts: a swim race, a pasta eating contest, and a bicycle race. Now, since Luca and Alberto can't swim without revealing that they're fish people, it's decided Luca will ride the bike and Alberto will eat the pasta. Now, the problem is Luca doesn't know how to ride a bike, so he has to spend a good chunk of the movie just, practicing it. So, the race has an entry fee, so Julia takes Luca and Alberto to meet her scary fisherman father who has 1 arm. And he tells her they can't afford the entry fee, so Luca and Alberto agree to help them with their family business. Now, later that night, Luca and Alberto go to sleep on Julia's treehouse thing, and then we see Luca's parents emerge from the water to look for him. And even though it's apparent that you've never been to the surface before, they have no trouble walking like Luca did. Okay? So Luca and Alberto wake up the next morning, but now they're wet with dew or maybe it rained or something, because now they're all wet and they turn back into the fish forms. They quickly dry themselves off before Julia and her father see them, and then they go to work on their boat. So Luca and Alberto help out on the boat and while desperately trying to avoid getting wet, and Alberto manages to impress Julia's father by using his knowledge of fish to catch a lot of them. Now, wearing stolen clothes, Luca's parents search the town for him, but they have no idea what he looks like in his human form, so they just end up harassing a bunch of random kids. They even end up harassing the girls in the town, so I don't know, I guess they can't tell male and female humans apart, I don't know. So Luca, Alberto, Julia all run into Ercole while signing up for the race, and Ercole steals their entry fee, but then Luca insults him, which apparently no one else has the balls to do. So Ercole decides to give their money back just so they can enter the race because he wants to destroy them in the race, right? So Luca and the gang spend a few scenes training, and then Luca sees 2 humans who he thinks are his parents, right? Later that night, Luca tells Alberto he thinks his parents are looking for him. Then Julia's father calls Alberto to help him with something, leaving Luca alone with Julia. So Julia starts telling Luca about the human world, because Julia just thinks at this point in the story that Luca and Alberto are like these, homeless runaway kids. She has no idea that they're fish people, right? So she thinks they're like uneducated vagrants that just kind of wandered into town. So she's like telling them about science and, history in the world and stuff. So Julia tells them about the human world and Luca gets all excited to learn more. So then Luca raises the idea of going to human school with Alberto, but Alberto wants to stick to the original plan to win the race so they can just buy the Vespa and then live as drifters, traveling all over the world. Luca and Alberto have another run-in with Ercole and his gang, and then we get a montage as they continue to train over several days. Luca's parents then see him and chase him, but he gets away. They then take the bike to the top of a big hill, and at this point Alberto is kind of seeing Julia as getting between him and Luca, so he insists on riding the bike down the hill with Luca, but ends up crashing it, causing him and Luca to fall into the water. Luca and Alberto swim to another shore before anyone can see them, and Luca says he doesn't even care about the race anymore because he would rather just go to school with Julia, and this of course causes a fight to break out between him and Alberto. Julia catches up to them, and Luca asks her if he can go to school with her, and she agrees. But then, just to be a prick, Alberto decides to ruin it for Luca by revealing that they're fish people by, walking into the water and getting himself all wet, and he turns back into his fish form. But this backfires because Luca just pretends to be shocked, and he's like, sea monster, he's a sea monster. So Alberto has to flee as, there's like a big bounty for sea monsters. So after revealing that he's a sea monster, Alberto has to flee the town before people kill him. And thus we get our second act low point, where the 2 protagonists get mad at each other and separate, which is like in every kid's movie now. Luca and Julia go back to Julia's father's house and tell him Alberto left town, but they don't tell him why, so Julia's father leaves to go looking for him. So then Julia then splashes Luca with water, having suspected that he was a fish person too. So then she tells him that he needs to leave town before everyone tries to kill him. So Luca swims back to the island, and he finds Alberto in the tower and tries to apologize to him. And then Luca finds a bunch of tally marks scratched into the wall on the spot where the poster used to be. And it turns out Alberto was abandoned there by his father, however many days ago, like months ago, maybe even years ago. It's not really clear because he said he stopped counting after a while. Luca decides that since the whole school thing isn't going to work out, he'll just go win the race on his own, and they'll go back to their original plan of winning the Vespa and just driving around. So Luca goes to compete in the race, but since he can't touch water without revealing that he's a fish person, he does so by putting on a diving suit during the swimming portion. Because one of the things that Alberto found at the beginning of the movie was a diving suit. So I guess he had access to a diving suit. Since he obviously can't swim in a diving suit, he has to just kind of walk on the seafloor for the swimming portion of the race, which of course results in him coming in last, but he makes up for it during the eating and bike riding portions. Luca manages to get way out ahead of everyone else during the bike portion, having somehow gotten really good at riding a bike over the course of a few days. I don't know. But then it starts raining, forcing him to stop under an awning so no one can see his fish form. But then Alberto comes running up toward Luca with an umbrella, but then Ercole kicks Alberto, causing him to drop the umbrella and revealing his fish form in the rain. Alberto gets a net thrown at him, but then Luca comes riding out from under the awning, exposing himself as a fish person in the rain, and he pulls Alberto onto the bike and they ride away. Ercole manages to get ahead of Luca and Alberto, and he prepares to throw a harpoon at them, so Julia saves them by crashing her bike into his. Now, seeing Julia get hurt, Luca and Alberto get off their bike and run over to help her, but then the townspeople point their harpoons at them. But then Julia's father comes up and says that even though they're sea monsters, they're still Luca and Alberto, and they also technically won because they didn't get off their bikes until after they crossed the finish line. Ercole's two goons turn on him and throw him into the fountain for treating them poorly. Then Luca's parents reveal themselves, and then everyone cheers. So then Luca and Alberto finally buy the Vespa, but then some time later we see Julia boarding a train to go back to school. But then Alberto reveals that he sold the Vespa so Luca could go to school with her, but Alberto decides to stay behind to help Julia's father. Luca says goodbye to his family, hugs Alberto, and then he rides on a train away to start a new life, and then the movie ends. But during the end credits, we get these little illustrations that show what everyone's lives were like after the movie. And then there's a little post-credits scene where the weird uncle guy comically rambles about what it's like to live at the bottom of the ocean, eating the detritus that drifts down. So that's pretty much everything that happens in the movie. It's generally pretty easy to identify the themes in a kids movie because they usually take the form of a simple moral lesson that's practically spelled out to the audience, and Luca is no exception. This movie has the typical kids movie themes about being yourself, accepting people as they are, not fearing things just because you don't understand them, and all that. But the way these themes are integrated into the plot is kind of weak. After Luca and Alberto are exposed as fish people at the end of the race, Ercole points a harpoon at them, and Luca says, "We're not afraid of you." Then Ercole says something like, "Yes, but we're afraid of you, and that's why we need to kill you." Now, aside from just being clunky and unnatural for a character to just come right out and say that, it kind of calls attention to the fact that the theme and the story don't really collude very well. See, it doesn't even really make much sense that the humans are so afraid of the fish people, because the movie never gives them a reason to fear them. Now, it makes sense that the fish people would be afraid of humans because the only time they see the humans is when they're capturing fish and maybe polluting the water. But literally the only reason the humans fear the fish people is because they're mysterious and evasive. Now, you might say that's realistic because people do fear what they don't understand, but the movie kind of presents it as a one-way street, where the fish people have good reason to fear the humans, but the humans don't have a good reason to fear the fish people. If they had a scene of a fish person hurting someone, or maybe even a subplot about a fish person kidnapping humans and wanted to declare war on them or something, then the theme about not fearing or hating someone for being different would come across much more strongly, because then you can make a point about how it's bad to judge entire groups of people for the actions of a few, which is something even a lot of adults don't understand. If you compare this to something like Zootopia, I think that movie handled the same theme much better. It's a story about a rabbit and a fox reluctantly teaming up and stopping a plot to incite what is essentially a race war. And they both have to overcome not only society's prejudices against themselves, but also their own prejudices against each other. Judy Hopps refuses to believe that she's just a helpless little rabbit like everyone keeps telling her she is, and Nick Wilde has to learn to overcome the societal expectation that he's just doomed to be a criminal for his whole life. And them overcoming these expectations is actually integral to them saving the day at the end, so the themes, plot, and character arcs all mesh together to create a cohesive whole. But in Luca, it's just humans are afraid of fish people for no reason, and that's bad. And Luca and Alberto proving that they're not to be feared doesn't really have anything to do with the low-stakes race they're trying to win. Luca and Alberto don't set out to prove anything about themselves to save the town or anything. They just want to buy a Vespa scooter for reasons completely unrelated to the relationship between the humans and the fish people. And winning the big race is just a means to get that scooter. They don't even have to overcome any prejudices against fish people to do that because nobody even knows they're fish people until the end, after they've already won. There's even a moment where Julia points out how it's ridiculous that Luca would risk his life for a scooter. And there isn't really any higher reason he wants the scooter other than so he could drive away and avoid his parents just because they want to send him to live with his uncle for a few months. So him winning the race at the end and accidentally proving that fish people are okay is entirely incidental. So I guess that's all I have to say about Luca, the new Pixar movie. So I guess like, comment, subscribe, and support me on Patreon. Bye.